Ladies and gentlemen, yes, this is your favorite show, Sports Unfolded, with your favorite hosts, Eric and Ron.
Man, I love that opening. Welcome to Sports Unfolded NFL Power Rankings for Week 13. I am your host, Eric. My main man right over there, Ron. That's you, my main man.
That's awesome.
That is. We are excited to bring Week 13. So we took a little hiatus with the holidays and haven't been doing a couple of weeks here. So we're just going to get back into it and discuss how we got to our NFL rankings, our top 5 NFL teams this week, and maybe discuss some opportunities with some other teams and then some injuries that might affect some of these teams as well. So let's bring up that list, Ron. And we came in with Minnesota Vikings at 10-2 at number 5, the Kansas City Chiefs 9-3 at 4, Dallas Cowboys in middle of the ground there, number 3 at 9-3, the Buffalo Bills at 9-3 at 2, and then the Philadelphia Eagles remaining at number 1 at 11-1 so far this season.
Remember a couple of weeks ago, we were worried about the Buffalo Bills?
Worried about the Bills, didn't believe the Philadelphia Eagles were for real. They've maintained, I think it's got to be at least 7-8 weeks now that they've been the number 1 team on the list.
Yeah.
Really interesting to be able to bring these to you. So we're going to discuss right off the bat number 5, and that's the Minnesota Vikings. And if you look at the Minnesota Vikings, I had a tough time putting them on this list. There was a couple of teams that honestly, the 49ers and the Bengals, that I possibly could have put ahead of them. But then I looked at some of the quality of their wins. So at 10-2, they're not winning pretty. I'll give them that. They are not winning pretty, but they did beat Miami. They did have wins against the Chargers, who are decent. And they did. I mean, some of their losses, again, you could say it's a good loss. They lost to Kansas. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. I'm looking at the wrong team. Let's go back, my friend, and start over. So they had a couple of good losses. They lost to Philly and they lost to Dallas. 2 teams that are on this list currently, right? The number 1 and the number 3 team. But they also had some quality wins. They beat Buffalo. They've beaten the Jets, Detroit, Washington. All of those teams are winning teams. So I gave them a notch because they had more quality wins than the 49ers and the Bengals.
Sounds right.
So I don't know if I expect them to be back on this list. Again, they are not very good offensively. They're 19th overall offensively. Defensively, 31st. They are the second worst team in the league when it comes to defense of efficiency. You okay?
Yeah.
And then if you look at even points for, points against, they're not in the top 10 in any statistical category that really I usually judge this list by. I could see, again, the 49ers, though, it'll be questionable now. Jimmy G, pretty much done until maybe a late playoff run, even if that makes sense to the 49ers. I don't know at that point. I don't know if they're going to be able to surpass the Vikings. The Bengals would be a team I'd be looking for to take this 5 spot. Again, offensively, they started to really pick it up. And then defensively, they're basically 12th and 13th in points against. So if you look at what they're doing defensively, I could see the Bengals on here next week.
Well, let's not rule out San Francisco yet because I think their new quarterback is pretty good.
Nope, not doing it. No, pretty good. Yes. And you never know, though. Listen, again, there's enough talent around there. They have the number 1 defense in the league.
Yeah, they do.
So defensively, if they can continue to do what they do, all you're asking the offense to do is not mess it up.
Right.
So, yeah, he may be able to do that. But I would say that the Vikings, it was tough to put them back on this list. I had taken them off the list a couple of weeks ago, and I didn't think they'd get back on. But they are there.
They are.
So number 4, the Kansas City Chiefs, who lost this week, which actually affected it a little bit. They lost to Cincinnati, and that's again another reason why the Bengals are starting to make some headway. But at 9-3, the number 1 offense in the league and the number 1 points for. So they've scored the most points in the league each week. 16th, so they're middle of the ground when it comes to defense, and then 15 in points against. A bad loss to Indianapolis, but then they had good quality losses against Buffalo and Cincinnati. So again, you take those 2 losses and then you say, well, did they have any good victories? San Francisco being one of them, the Chargers being another one, Tennessee being a third.
Yeah,
So
I'm not so sure the Chargers are
they were 500.
quality win.
Uh, yeah, I got
I
500.
mean, they just lost to Las Vegas, so I mean, I don't know.
I thought it was leaving Las Vegas, but no, Nicolas Cage. That was a good movie. But anyway, go ahead.
Was it?
Yes, I liked it. Depressing, but a good movie. Go ahead.
No, but I mean, like, Kansas City is one of those teams that we've ranted and raved about how great they're playing this year, and that's all fine and dandy. But taking out that Chargers game, it's not really.
There's not a ton of quality wins. They beat Arizona,
impressive.
Tampa Bay. Again, these teams aren't doing very well. Jacksonville, the Rams. So San
Are a
Francisco,
mess.
Tennessee would be the 2 teams that I would say
Yeah,
are quality wins. I would throw the Chargers in only because they're above 500. And they beat the Chargers twice.
yeah.
So that's how I got them at number 4. But again, the Bengals beating them, if the Bengals and the Chiefs are kind of neck and neck, it's that the only thing that Kansas City really has ahead of them is the offensive efficiency. And again, the Bengals are 5th in offense,
And I
so it's
still
not like they're
think
far behind.
I still think that the Cincinnati offense is just beginning to
Yeah.
to
Oh,
get
yeah.
good.
Oh, yeah. They were middle of the ground, and they're making some headway.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, because I had high hopes for Cincinnati this season, and they're starting to put it together.
Yeah.
And I can see them doing some damage. Like, it is not just Buffalo and Kansas City anymore.
No,
Cincinnati Bengals are there.
The AFC is definitely wide open. So it would be interesting to see if, again, they can continue to muster what they need to do. They got a game against the Browns this week, the Bengals.
Yeah.
So very easily could, get a victory. Deshaun Watson didn't look good in his return. This should be an opportunity. Look, the Bengals go to 9-4.
Wait,
And
did they win though?
they did win, but it was all defense. I think
Right,
they had a
and this
punt
is-
return and
Right,
2
and this is
defensive
what I
touchdowns.
was saying. Like, they'll beat Houston, but I mean, it's not going to be because of Watson.
And Kansas City, tough game. I know Denver's not playing very well, especially offensively, but defensively, they are a very tough team. So that may be a tough game for the Chiefs.
It could be.
So it'd be interesting to see. And then again, Minnesota, if we looked at who are the Vikings playing this week, they have, looks like a bye.
Yeah.
Oh, no, they play the Lions. Play the Lions.
Oh.
So that's an interesting game as well. And again, the Lions have played much better. They've won, 5 of 6 now?
Yeah, the Lions could actually finish second in that division.
So really good opportunity to see some movement, at least from 4-5.
Oh, my God.
I
Green Bay,
can't.
what happened to you?
Yes, it's been a mess there in Green Bay. But let's move on to the number 3 team. Very interesting.
Yes.
The Dallas Cowboys. So if we talk about what they've been able to do offensively, Dak coming back, it took a little while for them to get going, but now they're 11th defensively, 4th in points for, so they're 4th highest scoring team. Last season, they were the number 1 scoring team in the league. So they're starting to trend that way again. Defensively, 5th overall, 3rd in points against. So you're talking about a team that honestly is Super Bowl caliber. And if it wasn't for the Eagles being in the division, you would probably say the Dallas Cowboys right now are the best team in the NFC.
Yeah, if it wasn't for the fact that they always choke in the playoffs.
Yes, agreed. That's another factor that we have to take into account. But
because I almost don't even take them seriously until they prove it in the playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, regular season, we know that with Peyton Manning was a huge example of that. Where look, how many
Yeah.
times did Peyton Manning's teams go 14-2, or you know what I mean,
Right.
13-3, and then lose in the first round of the playoffs. So
A
lot to
lot.
prove with the Dallas Cowboys when it comes to the playoffs. But again, to be number 3 on this list, if you look at the quality of wins, again,
Yeah.
the New York Giants twice, who are again well over 500. Washington, who is playing better football. Let's not take that. They've beaten Minnesota. They've beaten Detroit. So they've beaten Cincinnati. So some quality wins in there. One bad loss would be Green Bay. The Tampa Bay win was week 1. Again, nobody knew what Tampa Bay was going to be. But the Green Bay loss was a bad loss. But then they also lost to Philly, which is, again, the number 1 team on this list. So, again, very good when you look at the record standpoint for the Dallas Cowboys, who they've beaten and how they've beaten them. I'm a believer at this point that the Dallas Cowboys are a contender this year.
I'm a believer that the league this year has been poor.
It's been different, that's for sure.
Because when you look at the quality teams that are out there, I mean, seriously, I like Philadelphia, Dallas, in the NFC. Other than that, I mean, San Francisco, I mean, now
again,
they have quarterback problem,
and
so
the Baltimore Ravens, again, another team in the AFC, but now Lamar Jackson's injury.
The AFC, I think there's only 3 teams in the AFC, and that's Buffalo, Kansas City, and Cincinnati. I don't think anybody else has a chance to win it. So really, right now, I'm coming down to 5 teams, and the way it's looking for me, Philadelphia versus one of those 3 teams out of the AFC, and the AFC team wins. That's the way I'm looking. Because you're saying these got quality wins, and you know what? Are they really quality wins when you're beating all these other teams? I'm not so sure it's really quality.
You win the games you're supposed to win,
right?
The majority,
and that's what they are doing for the most part. Those 5 teams have been doing it, And Minnesota is there because I think the NFC is so poor that somebody had to be. I mean, that's the way I feel. Like somebody had to be there, And I mean, I know San Francisco has a 7-4 record,
8-4. They're nipping on the bud, but yeah,
I mean,
but again, if you look at
good, and I would think that would be the team in the NFC, but now without Garoppolo, I'm not so sure that they're going to even survive it.
But I will also say, and this is the problem with San Francisco, when we talk about quality losses now, Kansas City,
right?
Quality loss. Their 3 losses are very bad. They lost to Chicago, Denver, and Atlanta.
Right, and those
are other
bad
3.
Teams.
Those are very bad losses. So it's hard to put them on a list when you look at the teams that beat
but
them.
A couple of those losses were, at the beginning of the season when
the Chicago one was definitely with Trey Lance, and then Jimmy took over after that. But again, poor losses. To me, those are poor losses.
Yeah, they
Dallas,
are. No, they certainly are.
And Dallas, again, this OBJ situation, are they going to sign him? Doesn't look like it now with the injury concern that he may not be ready till January. They need players now. I don't know if they have enough to pass the Eagles. But I will say this. There's 2 teams in the NFC. You said there's 3 in the AFC. There's 2 in the NFC, and that would be, to me, Philly and Dallas, and that's
right.
It.
That's the way I look at it.
Especially now with the Jimmy G situation.
And that's what concerns me about this Dallas team. Not that it concerns me because I'm not a Dallas fan, but for their sake, I mean, if they don't win, that first game in the playoffs, we're just looking at the same thing over and over again. And
I feel like you're asking for it.
It's coaching.
Playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs. You kidding me? Playoffs?
God,
I just hope we can win a game.
So exactly.
And it fits for every league. That's the great thing, It fits every league. Doesn't matter what sport
I agree.
it is.
The Dallas Cowboys could finish number 1 on this list, losing the first round of the playoffs, and we'll say it's the same old Dallas Cowboys.
Right. Right.
You've got to be able to do something since 1996. Like it's you're at that point. You've had enough good teams to get there.
And this is a good team. Like it really is. It is a good team. This team can win a Super Bowl. But
It's coaching. It's coaching now. Can Mike McCarthy
I don't
make
think so.
some decisions? And we'll have to see. But Dallas will be a very interesting team. I can't see them falling off this list unless something crazy, absolutely crazy happens. And they're facing the Texans this week.
Oh my God, they can sleepwalk through that one.
Yeah,
Well, I've
so-
said that before.
Yeah. But,
I said all I had to do is just come off the plane, right?
Yeah, that worked out well. So let's talk about the number 2 team, and that's the Buffalo Bills. And the Buffalo Bills, very interesting, have climbed back up onto this list. 9-3 overall, second offensively, 10th defensively. So have had a little bit of a slip when it comes to defense, but third in points for, fourth in points against. Again, when we talk about quality losses, all 3 of their losses were quality losses. They lost to Miami, the Jets, and Minnesota. All these teams have winning records. And I know where you're going, but what I'm saying to you is this. If you're over 500 or better and you lose to those kind of teams, that's a quality win, a quality loss.
Yeah.
Because I would do the same thing on teams that they've beaten. They've beaten Tennessee. They've beaten Baltimore. They've beaten Kansas City. So very good teams. They've beaten Detroit. So those teams are all, again, over 500 or better. And those are quality wins. So you got to take their losses and say, look, they've lost to some good teams. Maybe not the best teams, but they've lost to some good teams. In that Minnesota game, realistically, they shouldn't have lost.
No, they shouldn't have. But again, like I said before, remember when we were talking about Buffalo and we were a little concerned about them? But, it's like this team is built to win a Super Bowl. I still find it hard to believe if they didn't make it to the Super Bowl. By what I gather, it should be them in Philadelphia. But, we can't discount the teams that they have to go through. And they're going to have to go through both of them.
Yeah, and
in
listen,
order to get there.
I'm glad you brought that up because the biggest piece of this now that we haven't even mentioned yet, Von Miller done for the year now.
Yes.
It was an ACL injury. He got surgery. He will not be back this season.
Yeah.
And they picked him up primarily for this reason, to face Cincinnati and to face Kansas City.
Right.
To give them a pass rusher that was going to be disruptive. And now you lost that.
Right.
Can they overcome that?
Now you have to overcome that. Somebody has to step up and say, you know what? It's my time. And that's the impression I get from this Buffalo team is that, when they're down, and if you give them any wiggle room, they're going to get up and they're going to come back stronger. And that's what I see from this team that might not have been there before this season.
Yeah, and I think look, some of the losses too, lackadaisical. They just expected to win. They expected to show up.
Yeah.
And I think they're at a point now where they realize, look, we've got to stop playing our best football now.
Right.
You've got 5 weeks left before the playoff run. They're now in the hunt for the number 1 seed in the AFC playoffs. You want to hear it again? The number 1 seed in the AFC. Get that bye. Get some guys healthy, right? We know Josh Allen's elbow and what that could potentially be in the playoffs if, they need obviously him to sling it around. Still the favorites in the AFC in your eyes, though?
In my eyes, yes.
Bengals, though, starting to make that.
Look, when you have a Von Miller going up against a Kansas City, that helps because that puts a little thought in Mahomes' head. That's where it's going to be the most important against a quarterback like Mahomes and a quarterback like Burrow who can sling it and has receivers to do the job.
So let me ask you this question: biggest threat to the Buffalo Bills right now, Kansas City or Cincinnati?
Has to be Kansas City right now because of that
who they've
type
beaten.
of quarterback, right?
In Kansas City too. So
right,
they know they can go into Kansas City and win it.
Right. But we all know that it's hard to win twice.
Yeah.
In the same season.
Yep. And hopefully that don't go to overtime. Let's not bring that up again. But the number one team, Ron, has consistently been now for weeks the Philadelphia Eagles. And we keep saying this is it. They're not for real. This will be the week. They are third overall offensively, second defensively.
But I don't say that.
Number 2 in points, and then 8th in points against. The only loss they've had is to Washington, who we know Washington right now is honestly playing some very good football. We talked about Heineke and what they're doing.
That way. They could be perfect right now.
They should be undefeated, but they're not. Again, but then quality wins. They've beaten Cincinnati. They've beaten the Giants twice. Right? They've beaten the Giants. No, Dallas. They've beaten Minnesota. They've beaten Washington one other time. They've beaten Tennessee. So some good quality wins.
Yeah.
Basically got Tennessee.
Look, I said that they were going to come out of this division as the number one team. And so this isn't surprising to me because I think the dynamics that they built around this team, adding the pieces that they got, were far superior than what anybody else did during the offseason. And they were already a playoff team, so you know they had to improve just by the pieces they added.
A.J. Brown was a major piece to that offense and what he's been able to do for Jalen Hurts. If you think about Jalen Hurts now has 2 solid wide receivers in Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown, right? His ability to run and move and do some things, he's taken such a big leap. And then defensively, I mean, they just keep picking up players. Robert Quinn out now for 4 weeks. But again, when he's back, and Ndamukong Suh, they just picked up. They were solid already defensively. I don't know which team unless some Brady miracle or one of those type of things happens in the playoffs.
That's the only thing that could happen.
Right? I don't see a team better than them except Dallas. Dallas could be that team that could give them some problems.
It could.
And they still got to face Dallas one more time. So that matchup's going to be very important to both teams because Philly's going to want to establish themselves as the best team in the league. And Dallas is going to want to prove that they're better than the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, Philly beats Dallas in that game. I think it's the nail in the coffin for Dallas. I don't think they could bring it back and win in the playoffs. I think that would be just morally degrading.
Yeah, you lose to them twice.
Morally? It's not morally, but it's it's morale.
But you also got to. They play the Giants this week. This could pretty much put the nail in the coffin for the Giants as well. They've lost a couple straight, so that would be an interesting factor. So,
Giants aren't careful; they're not going to make the playoffs.
I would ask you this, and we do this. We do this every so often. If we had money to bet and we're going to Vegas right now, are you going all in on the Eagles? Would you think
to make it to the Super Bowl?
To win the whole thing? Are they the best team in the NFL? They have the best record.
They have the best record, but I wouldn't pick them to win the Super Bowl.
They're in the best division as well, if you would say that. All those teams over 500. Every one of them.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't pick them.
So you're going AFC, and then you're saying, so Buffalo wins?
Yeah.
Is what you would think?
Yep.
All right, my friend. Well, it's going to be interesting to see. Jalen Hurts, he's made me a believer.
Oh, he absolutely has. I mean, when you look at this team, I mean, they have youth on the side as well. And I think this team is going to be in play for about 3 years at least.
Yeah. And what do we think? Nick Sirianni is the head coach, came over last year. Very quiet. Look, he's got to be the NFL head coach candidate for,
oh my
top
God.
head coach.
If he's not the best, if he doesn't win for head coach of the year, there's something wrong.
9-7 last year, 10-7, something to that effect. So you know what he's been able to do and turn this team around, and great ownership. Jeff Lurie.
The important thing is, who's the worst coach of the league? Oh,
that's a tough. Lovie Smith.
I'm not sure Lovie Smith is the worst because he's got a god awful team.
They should have, but I don't think he's not the coach.
I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying is I'm pointing my fingers towards Vegas.
They've won 3 straight though. Vegas making a run now.
Yeah. because
All
they
of a
need
sudden,
to save his job.
so they listen. They went out. They're 10-7. They probably make the playoffs. As crazy as it sounds, I think they're 5-7 right now.
Yeah.
They've won a couple straight. Like Vegas,
Okay.
all of a sudden
I'm
has
just
turned
saying.
it around.
I am just saying.
No,
With
I
that
don't.
team,
Now,
that team
actually,
should have.
scratch all that. Scratch all that. You know, the worst coach right now is Hackett,
Oh
Nathaniel
God,
Hackett
yes.
in
Oh
Denver.
yeah. Never mind.
If
Yeah,
we
you're
talk
right. Nope, that's
Hackett,
it. That's it.
like
That's the one.
how does that team with that talent, that defense?
I can't even believe he still has a job.
If he was a defensive minded coach, I would have understood this. He was an offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
And yet you got one of the worst offenses in the league.
Yeah.
Like
No,
with Russell
he's the worst
Wilson.
coach. He's the worst
Yeah,
head coach.
so
it's not
so
even close.
I would go Denver, and I don't know if he's going to be back next season. That would be my estimation.
Oh
He's
my
gone.
God, I can't believe he still has his job.
So, and then Tennessee firing that GM after the loss to Philly. And the funny thing is, Tennessee has not had a losing record under this general manager.
Yeah, that's stupid.
It was very weird. Something going on with Vrabel, because there's a lot of talk that Vrabel may go back to Ohio State and want to coach at Ohio State. And I think this was a power move to keep Vrabel in Tennessee.
Yeah, we'll
So
see.
watch that, because that could happen. That could happen.
Yeah, maybe
Mike
maybe
Vrabel back to
wants to run
college.
everything.
So I'd be interested to see. Let's bring that list up one more time, Ron, just so we could show the fans what we came up with.
Bam!
And that was at number 5, the Minnesota Vikings, 4, the Kansas City Chiefs, 3, the Dallas Cowboys, at 2, the Buffalo Bills, and at number 1, the Philadelphia Eagles. Can't wait to see next week's list. I really can't. Some good games coming up this week, so we may have some changes.
Hey, you got your 3 stars though, right?
I got my 3 stars. I do not. You forgot to remind me before we started, but go ahead. I will.
I just assumed that you would have your 3 stars.
You know, I'm a hack when it comes to this stuff.
For shame.
No, go ahead though. What do you got?
So my 3rd star actually is a package deal.
Okay.
I went with Nick Bosa
Ooh.
and Brock Purdy from San Francisco.
You and Purdy. You just want to say Purdy more times than you can.
Yes, because I think he did a pretty good job.
Pretty good job. Yeah, he's pretty good. He's pretty
Look,
good.
he came in. I mean, at that point, Vinny Testaverde. Holy
Wow,
crap.
Vinny's back. Bring him back.
Jimmy Garoppolo only had thrown 4 passes, so that was Brock's game. And the fact that he's got a great name helps. But I mean, his numbers were modest, but 25 of 37, 210 yards, 2 touchdowns and an interception. Not bad for getting thrown to the wolves, and didn't realize that he was going to play.
No, I agree with you.
But Nick Bosa, 3 tackles, 3 sacks, and a forced fumble. Oof.
Nice. Can't go wrong there.
They just blasted the Rams. Blasted them. Blasted.
Blasted? Say it one more time. I don't think I caught you. Blasted. So as I'm looking at this, I am definitely going with, at number 3, Devontae Adams. So 8 receptions, 177, and 2 touchdowns. I mean, and again, he had the winning touchdown in that game. And not to be outdone by Josh Jacobs, who had a very big game for the Raiders as well. 26 carries, 144 yards, and a touchdown.
Yeah.
5.5 yards per carry. Pretty
I had
impressive.
Devontae Adams as my 2nd.
Yeah, so I go definitely Devontae Adams.
Yeah, Devontae was my 2nd. So, who was your 2nd?
That's a tough one here. Let me see.
There's 2 more candidates that could have really been up there.
Yeah, I would.
Come on, do it. Do it.
Do
it. I know you want to. You're holding back, and I know you want to do this.
I'm going I'm Geno Smith.
I knew it.
Geno Smith, 28 for 39, 367, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, even a sack, but again, a big win. against the Rams. I got to go Geno.
Yeah,
Not that I
know.
like
he
it.
was my fourth guy today. This one. He was my fourth guy.
You have to go. So who did you have it to? Oh, you
At
said
number one, I had
Devontae, right?
Jalen Hurts. I mean, he's
That's who
been
I'm
there
going
for
one.
like 4 or 5 times for me already this year.
Yep.
Look, there is nobody that made a bigger jump than him. Not even Tua made this big of a jump.
Agreed, man. It's just unreal to see what he's been able to do so far this season.
And he's humble, and I have to say Tua is too. Also, Tua is too. But what this guy has done, I mean, what did he have? 3 passing touchdowns and a rushing touchdown this past week.
Just doing a little bit of everything.
He's doing everything.
And he's doing it, and he's doing it in a way. Listen, that the team is successful.
Yeah.
Around him, like he's made these guys even better. AJ Brown was a good wide receiver. He's made him into an elite wide receiver. He's made Devontae Smith last season Rookie of the Year, candidate, into one of the top receivers in the league. So I love what he's done with the offense. I love what the offense is doing with him. And you're starting to see. Can I say this?
Too.
Yeah, I would say this, Ron. When you sat back, NFL draft, watched that show, we had a really good time with it. But the NFL draft, and you talked about Justin Fields.
Thank you, Faceless.
And when you talk about Justin Fields, this is what Jalen Hurts is. Justin Fields will be that Jalen Hurts type of quarterback.
Yeah.
Where you get enough guys around him and talent, Chicago's going to win, because that's what Philly did. They brought this guy in and then said, what is he best at? He can move around in the pocket. Yeah. Let's get him a deep threat. He can throw deep. He can do some things that, again, if you don't have the talent, he's not going to look like he's an elite quarterback.
And when you think about it, they were surprised at the playoffs. I don't care what anybody says. They were surprised.
Yeah.
They looked, it's like, well, wait a minute. If we can make the playoffs, then, if we go out and get a few players.
We have enough pieces in place already, right?
Yeah.
To be successful. Not like New England, where you had pieces in places and did nothing the following year. So you're not going to make the playoffs. But I digress from that as well. What I will say is, look, to me, Philadelphia is the best team in the league right now. Playoffs, different story. Experience matters in the playoffs.
It does.
That's
why, like you did a Brady miracle. Well, Brady does that.
He kind of just pulled one off this week.
If he makes the playoffs, I don't bet against Brady at all.
So he just passed Peyton Manning for the most comeback wins in NFL history.
Yep.
This was the latest touchdown pass he's had to win a game. It was 3 seconds left in the game. So you think about all that Tom Brady does, and he's still doing things that, again, are unreal. But we'll see it again next year in New England. So,
no, we won't.
And I thought about this afterwards. You were wrong in your face-off on Friday. If you didn't watch Friday's show, which is a mistake as well, you should watch it. Great face-off. Will Tom Brady return to New England next year? And you said something to me that was very important that I didn't pick up. And the more I thought about it, I said, you know what? I know exactly how you would lose this argument. You said Brady wanted to prove he could win without Belichick, right? Because that would show that Tom Brady was more important than Bill Belichick was, right? Think about this factor. You ready for this one? This is going to blow your mind. Why wouldn't Tom Brady want to come back to New England? Because if they win it again, then that proves Belichick needs Brady to win versus Brady leaving to go to another team. Because now Tom says the only way Bill Belichick ever wins is with Tom Brady. He can't do it without me. If Tom Brady can bring this New England Patriots team to a Super Bowl and win it, that proves more than him going to a stacked team in Tampa Bay and winning it. It proves that Bill Belichick is not the best coach of all time without Tom Brady. That would come back and bite.
Yeah, but
Bill
you didn't
more
say
than
that
Tom.
during that
I understand.
episode, so
I'm just saying. Thank you very much. Now it makes sense, though, doesn't it? Now it kind of makes sense.
Well, you didn't say that.
Right? Thank you.
Just saying.
Just saying. So this has been NFL Power Rankings for Week 13. We normally do our show every Friday night, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. You can watch us live on Rhode Island Broadcasting. You can join in. It's fan interactive. Faceless has been on several of our shows, so thank you. Although Faceless did pick USA soccer team incorrectly, 0-1. So you need to join this Friday, Faceless, to make sure you get your name up on that list of predictions without a 0-1 record. Challenge accepted, I hope.
And you, my friend, missed the golden opportunity I handed
did.
you.
I didn't want to go against USA. I just couldn't. My heart wouldn't allow it.
Yeah.
But check those shows out every Friday night, 6 p.m. And again, if you don't have
There's
time,
no better sports show. None.
Absolutely not. And if you don't have time to join us, watch us afterwards. Check out all the shows. Check out the website. Check us out on our social media platforms. On that ticker there, it shows you exactly how you can follow us on all our
Twitch,
different
we're
social media.
actually at 302 now, by the way.
That is phenomenal. 302 followers. That is phenomenal. Great. So subscribe, join us, bits, stars. Love to have you. Check us out this Friday night, 6 p.m., as we cover all of the top sports stories going on. A lot in Major League Baseball we'll be covering. NFL, these quarterback injuries will definitely be discussed as well. So a lot to go over. Some NHL injuries as well.
Is it when your league is more exciting during the off season than the actual season?
Free agency's big. Free agency's big. And it seems to be most sports. The only sport I would say free agency is not as popular would be the NHL. If you look at that when we're grading sports, and I'm not saying which sport's better, but yeah, and MLB for some reason, because A, the contracts are ridiculous. But then B, everybody's like, where are they going, right? All these teams start throwing money. There's no salary cap, so you go crazy. NFL after that, like, where are these guys going? NBA is always like, who's building the next super team? Yeah. NHL, right? The NHL.
Where is LeBron going to build his next team?
Exactly, right? So the NHL, the only one that you kind of don't get as excited about. But again, really good moves. So we'll be talking about the MLB free agency this Friday. So I'm really excited about that because we got a lot to cover. But Ron, it's been a pleasure, my friend. I will see you this Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Faceless, thanks for joining us live. And everybody out there, all we ever ask for is peace in this world.
Have a good day.